Greetings and welcome back. Becoming Undone is a podcast for those who dare bravely risk mightily and grow relentlessly. Join me, Toby Brooks, as I invite a new guest each week where we examine how high achievers can transform from falling apart to falling into place. Y'all, I'm so excited about this guest. I can't even begin to tell you. Today's guest is 2026 Olympic speed skater Sarah Warren. Her path as speed skaters, it wasn't linear. It was full of twists and turns. She started as a Division I soccer player at Illinois, stepped away from that, battled through multiple injuries, and then rebuilt herself into a long track speed skater on the Olympic stage. So, Sarah, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I always start off with a little bit of a softball. When you were growing up, what did you want to be, and what did you believe that version of you could prove?
I always wanted to be the best, and that wasn't always the strongest, the fastest. I did love to win. I will say I was probably the most competitive kid on the playground, but I just want to be the best version of myself. I knew from a young age what I thought I was capable of. And for me, if I fell short of that, that was not a success because I knew I had what it took to get there. And so, even from a young age, I started off in hockey. I was the best hockey player. Now, that was slowly realized I did not have good enough puck handling skills for that. But it was the goal when I was out on the ice. And even from a young age, I will discuss it, but I got surgeries at a pretty young age. And I knew then that I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And so I was a pretty young kid with pretty lofty goals. My parents definitely knew they had their hands full, but anything I tried, I wanted to reach the highest level I thought I could achieve. And from a young age, I knew that was the goal.
So you end up at Illinois where you are a college soccer player, Big Ten. I mean, obviously at a big stage. How much would you say your identity was tied into being an athlete at that point? And who were you if that were to go away?
I would say at that point, 100%. I don't think I had the mindset I do now that you're more than a soccer player. You're more than the athlete. You're more than, this Division One person because that's what you strove for. Like throughout my entire playing career for soccer, I wanted to be a Division One soccer player. And so you entangle yourself with this idea of that's who you are, especially when you achieve it, because you worked your whole life to become that. And it's a dangerous mindset to have, to be honest, because again, as we'll talk about, you'll get injured. And when you get injured, it completely takes that away. When you can't play, when you can't even run, you can't even make a quad, then who are you? And it was a tough lesson to learn. And I always say my 5 years at Illinois made me who I am because I came in not facing too much adversity, right? I was able to achieve this dream of running track at high school, playing Division One soccer, and being able to speed skate. So not much got thrown in my path. I was kind of riding this high of I was unstoppable. And life threw me a reminder that that is not always the case. So I would say going into college, it was 100% who I thought I was. I was Sarah, the Division One soccer player.
I've worked with a lot of athletes, not a lot in soccer, but definitely in college sports. Soccer, I think, is unique in that it almost seems like until an athlete gets her first ACL tear, like she's not really trying very hard. It's almost like enculturated as part of the sport, right? So from my background and research, it looks like you've had injuries from early teen years and really that magnified as you got into college. So talk me through maybe that first taste of adversity and what it was like early on in the process and what your thought process was like those
Yeah,
initial
when
few injuries.
yeah, when I was younger, I had pretty easy surgeries. My knees, when I was around 10, I think, or 11, I just couldn't do any sports. My knees just kept swelling. We had no idea what was going on. And that's actually where I found Dr. Brian Cole, who did a pretty simple scope. To me, it was the world's greatest surgery. And he found this plica, which is an extra lining, and it fixed me. It's a scope. A scope is pretty, in the grand scheme of things, pretty easy now. But it fixed me. I was able to do the sports I loved. To me, he was an absolute hero. So it almost led to the same idea of like, oh, I'm unstoppable. I came back from this injury and look at me now. And I got humbled with that first ACL. It was not a typical ACL. It was high speed collision. We were running down the line, ball underneath foot, caught myself with the other foot, and then the rest was the rest was history, right? It's pretty gruesome. Leg went back. And that it was my worst fear. I saw my brother go through 3 ACLs. He actually got a double ACL surgery at the same time, and so that's what I was trying to avoid my entire career. And you don't really think about it because if you do, you're doomed. But I knew in that moment, I'm like, something's terribly wrong. And I just remember staring at the wall. I'm in the training room being like, I'm done. Like, the, who am I at this point? And you kinda get a
Yeah.
false sense though, because most people don't know when you tear an ACL, either you get surgery 24 hours in or you get surgery 3 weeks out because you need to get rid of the
Mhm.
swelling, you need to go in, and so you actually go through this 3-week period where your knee feels great. Like, you walk into surgery feeling like Superman, so I kinda had that idea too, and, I luckily did have my brother to see his journey through this and the fact he did get through this, and he had 2 done at once, so I'm gonna be fine. And waking up from that surgery, ooh, that was probably the worst pain I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It was humbling is probably not a good enough word. Just the pain and the fact of you could not prepare yourself.
Mm.
And you go home, and I clearly remember this, and I look down and I'm like, I can't even make a quad. And you're in
Yeah.
so much pain you don't even want to. And
Mhm.
that's when it hit me. I'm like, this is going to be a super, super long journey. I will say in the same breath though, my mom and dad and brother who were around me for that, they came to surgery. They were there when I got home. And my brother may have been in school, but he was on the phone, and it was nothing but positivity, nothing but like, "Oh, you got this. Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, this is normal, this is normal." And I'm so thankful I did have John, my brother, who went through this because we did have these milestones to look forward to. But it was the first time that I realized that I'm breakable.
Yeah.
Um, and the identity crisis that occurred was probably a little bit later because you think you're gonna fly through recovery. Oh, it's yeah, I've had this before, and
Yeah.
again, humbled. An ACL takes a certain amount of time, but I would say straight away, I could not anticipate the pain, and then the idea I was gonna be at step 0, and the fight it was gonna take to
Yeah.
come back.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that cumulative injuries, like if it's your first, it I mean, obviously it's foreign to you. You don't know how much pain you're going to go through or how long it's going to take. But you also don't know, you're a little naive to the fact of
Mhm.
how long or how am I going to be able to come? And then there's a lot of positivity, like you said. Once you've been down this road 3 or 4 or 5 or 10
Mm,
times, the cumulative effect really starts to weigh. And I've seen athletes who faced surgery too with just this grit and determination, like I'm going to beat this. I'm getting back on the floor or the field. By by 8 or 9 or 10, like you've endured, there's like, is this it? Am I done?
yeah.
Am I ever going to be able to return to the athlete I was? What was that like for you facing kind of the cumulative effect of those surgeries?
I would say the idea of, "I don't know if I can do this," was the only time that hit pre-surgery was my 2nd ACL. I clearly remember laying your pre-op, and I had my little cap on, I was in the gown, and I was laying there, knee was signed, like, we were ready to go back, and I looked at my mom because you know what's coming, and I'm like, I don't think I can do this." And word for word, she said, "Well, honey, we don't really have a choice. Like, we're here." And it's something that stuck with me. And that phrase from then on going to every surgery was, we don't really have a choice. There was no choice. We went in. I'm like, oh, this is elective. Like, oh, I just would love to get a nice cleanup. Like, they were all necessary. And as I came back to, following the first ACL, we had a cartilage pull off of the knee and able to play the season, but we had to get it cleaned up. Well, that's a necessary so I can come back to something else. And then you tear a second ACL, and then you have the crisis there, and then from there on, every surgery, you're like, well, we need this to hit this goal. And so going into each surgery, I had the ability to see why we were doing it. And that goal was so sweet to me that it was worth it. Now it's a bit naive too, though, because the day in and day out, when you talk about the cumulative, and I think that really hit this last year. You had 4 surgeries in the pre-Olympic season. Not how I wrote the book. You know, the book was I was good enough with 2 ACLs. I'm like, this is great. This is awesome. Look at what I fought through." Even the ankle, I was like, "Okay, cool, we're coming back." Then the double knee, and I'm like, "You know what? Necessary. If we have to do it, this is the year. You have this positivity." And then the meniscus tears walking 3 months out of the double knee. I think at that point, I honestly called my mom, I'm like, "Is this a sign? Is this like a sign?" Like, I got injured walking on a running track, like a flat surface. And my mom's like, "You can think about it any which way, hon, but it is what it is." And dad said the same thing. He's like, "It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter, what caused it. It happened and we need to go fix it."
Yeah.
I flew in immediately and got it done. But it's hard on those days, like, after that 4th surgery, something was different, and I could not balance. And it was kinda hard to describe to people because they look at you and you speed skate and you're on one foot most of the time, and I'm like, "I can't balance on my right foot." And I
Yeah.
remember finally I went and talked to my strength coach, and I'm like, "You need to teach me as if I've never walked before." And we relearned how to balance on the right, but it's super frustrating. I mean, it is hard not to look a year down the road, which at that point, the surgery occurred in October. So it truly was like a year and a month or so down the road, I would have to be competing for an Olympic team and probably be the top 2 in the nation. And it's hard not to plan. You're like, if I can't
Yeah.
balance, how am I going to be at one of the top in the world? But everyone around me did a great job of we keep the focus. You can't control a year and a half. We can control today. We can control tomorrow. Um, and my dad had a great phrase because obviously you have doubts. I don't think I would not be honest if I sat here. I'm like every day I knew I could do it, and I woke up and I was. But that's just not true. And any athlete listening to this, it is common to have doubts. It is common to wake up and want to quit because it's just so hard. You fought, you fought, you fought, and you don't see anything out of it. And dad would always tell me, um, doubt's not going to help. Self doubt, you got to believe. You put it in the air,
Yeah.
you got to believe, you got to believe. And it made me realize that you can't let a temporary feeling lead to a permanent decision.
Oof.
How
That's
many
good.
temporary feelings that, oh, like, I'm not going to get it. You have this doubt, you have this fear. It's at the end of the day, it's fear. We work our entire lives for 38 seconds that we need to qualify for a team that either makes us an Olympian or doesn't make us an Olympian.
Yeah.
And so it's fear. But that's temporary. Fear is temporary. You wake up the next day and you feel different. And so dad's saying of doubt's not going to get you there was something that really, really
Love it.
pushed me through. And then, I thought every feeling I feel is temporary and we're not going to have a permanent decision based on something temporary. And
Yeah.
that's every day. That's just what we thought.
Love it. That's such a powerful mindset, and it puts the control back in your hands. Like you
100%.
you can lament what's happened to you, or you can focus on what you can do today to get better. So I love that
Absolutely.
mentality. So I have to wonder, you didn't just start speed skating after soccer. It was something you had done early, but obviously it's dormant, I would say. Maybe that's the term. I mean, you're a college soccer player. Where are Olympic dreams of being a speed skater during this time? Is it completely foreign? When did that start to re-enter the equation?
So it was on my mind actually the whole time. I went into school. My coaches were great at Illinois. Even my freshman year, my off season, I skated because I was still on a junior world team. So the plan was always I'm going to go play soccer and I'm going to come back and become an Olympian. Very naive in the sense of I'm going to come back and immediately become an Olympian. Again, you go into college, this idea, I'm unstoppable. I can do absolutely everything. And then you have an ACL, and then you have a cleanup, and then you have an ACL, and then you have a cleanup. So you're 4 knees at that point, 6 knee surgeries in, and I tore my second ACL my final game. It was the last regular season game of my 5th year season against Nebraska. Must win, and we won to make it to the Big Ten tournament, but it was as late in the season as possible, and I knew immediately. Like, I came out for a corner to block it, cut, knee went, typical ACL. And that I honestly was the first time I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna make it back for the like this was code red. This was the one thing that could not happen is happening. And my 5th year after the ACL recovery is pretty hard on that one. I don't know why. There's just they differ. Again, my parents are like I said, if they could have lined up on the line with me, that would have been more indicative of how this entire career has gone. I called dad, and I didn't have the mindset I did now, I have to admit. And I said, like, hey, recovery's not going well. I'm not too sure. I'm thinking just straight med school. I think I'm gonna, research, take the MCAT, and go to med school. And he's like, okay, good plan. But I have to say, I know that feels right now, but how are you gonna feel in 5 years?
Uh,
And again, it's what led to this idea of temporary feelings, permanent decisions. And I sat there and I was like, wow, like, you're right. Like, I'm scared. I'm scared I'm not gonna make it. I know it's gonna be hard. I'm gonna have to come back. The knee, I couldn't get full flexion. I couldn't get full extension. I knew it was gonna be tough, but like, why not try?
yeah.
And so the Olympic dream was very alive for 4.5 years. And about for a month and a half, it almost died.
Yeah.
It almost went away. Like I said, like I am going to be completely transparent here. People see me on the line, see 10 surgeries, like, oh, she always no, there were some lows. But so after that talk, I was like, you're absolutely right. And that's when the eyes went back onto the Olympics. I knew it was going to be a fight. It was going to be a grind. It was going to take every single day. Did not anticipate the angle. Again, you hope from that point on it's a straight shot, and it wasn't. But all these trials and tribulations that I went through before really set me up to be able to deal with the ones that got thrown at me at age 27, age 28, and age 29 compared to 21-year-old Sarah.
Yeah, I love that. As you're talking, I'm really impressed by the community that's around you, whether that's
Unbelievable.
your brother who's been through that, your mom, your dad, your physician who's an inspiration for you professionally now. For so many athletes, there's a temptation to withdraw, and I'm
Mhm.
not on the roster, I'm not contributing on the field or the court anymore, so maybe I don't deserve to be this anymore. What would you
Yeah.
say to that athlete who's tempted to kind of pull within their shell instead of lean into the community around them?
It's hard. I would say I totally understand that, and that's something over this last year, I expanded my community just for my family. The Warren family is extremely close. That is something my grandparents, my parents have really instilled in us, like, your family is forever. And so I had the privilege and the honor of having the family that I do. But even this last year, I really leaned into my teammates. I really leaned into my friends and realized it is nice to have that community, especially when you're at the rink. And so it is very tempting to not want to be a bother, I think is one. I think two, you point out a great thing. Well, let's say you're on a team sport and you tore an ACL. And so no, you can't go out there and play. But instead of thinking of what can't I do, think what can I do? Right? You're still a member of that team. You still can contribute. No, you can't go and kick a ball down the field. But if a teammate's having a bad day, can you be the person they go to and you pick them up so that then they can go have a good day? Don't have control over what you can't do. You don't have control over the fact that you got hurt. You don't have control over the timeline. I heard an ACL now is a year. That you're out for a year. And you can either have a year where I don't want to say sulk, but you just look at the negatives. You look at what you can't
Mm,
do. And I'm going to tell you that recovery process is going to be rough. Or you can look at the year of like, you know what, as a teammate, I can work on my positivity. As a teammate, I can work on so and so wants to go get extra touches, but no one's available. Well, I can't kick a ball, but I can throw one. You find what you can do. You find what piece of the puzzle you can fill as a teammate, and you do that to the best of your ability, and then you add.
yeah.
You always can control your attitude. You always can control what you can do. So focus on that rather than the small piece of the puzzle that you can't do.
Mm, love that. And I would say as a healthcare provider, I wanted to make that part of the recovery. If I saw an athlete starting to withdraw, I'm concerned about them. Their psychological health could be suffering. But I also want to encourage team leaders. If you've got an injured teammate and they're not part of the day in and day out, it's easy to focus on kind of what I have in front of me, but a good leader recognizes the entire team and maybe can, that invite from the team captain means a heck of a lot more than it means from the strength coach or the athletic trainer.
100%. And I do think that is the benefit too of having a close team to really cementing that team culture. And at Illinois, we did a great job of that. My best friends came from my soccer team. Actually, three roommates who I lived with for most of my years at Illinois came to Milan with like as soon as I
Awesome.
made the team, they know me as an athlete too. They know I'm not on my phone during competition. They're texting my mom the whole time. I looked at the group chat after, I was cracking up. Um, and so they were there with me. And as soon as I tore my ACL, the first time I remember we all just sit in the living room. We're like, it's pretty wild. Like, but they're there. They're there every step of the way. The second time I came home, 2 gift baskets. I mean, everyone was no one left a word unsaid, I would say. Texts, calls, cards, and you realize the community you have around you because as a teammate, yes, it is your job if you're injured to help. But also if you're not injured and your teammate got injured, do help them, in
Yeah.
that moment, figure out what they need. If it looks like they're down, which is a part of the injury process, be there for them, figure out a way, ask if they want to help, make them feel included, make them feel important because again, even though they can't contribute on the field, they can contribute in a different way. And if you find that role for them early, it really helps the recovery process because you do feel like part of the process.
Yeah, great advice. Again, talking with Olympian Sarah Warren, former Division I soccer player and just overcomer of all stripes. We'll get into a little bit about what's coming next for you, but I really want to kind of drill down on something you said about, as those injuries mounted and in the moment, we don't have the benefit of perspective. You don't
Mm-mm.
know that it's all going to end well. You get to go to
Yeah.
opening ceremonies. You get to skate in you don't know that in that moment.
Yeah.
So now you do, and you can look back on that. And I really try to encourage my listeners to recognize the value of reflection. What
Mm.
we've been through is important, but unless we look back, we really can't understand the gravity of what we've learned. So when you look
Yeah.
back at that version of yourself, when your Olympic dreams were potentially in jeopardy, what do
Mhm.
you understand about yourself now that maybe you couldn't see then?
I think it's a trust that I would figure it out. I'm pretty transparent as we do talk to sports psychs. I think it is a massive part, especially of speed skating. We say a huge part of this is mental. And that's something I talk to with my sports psych. When you can't balance, there's a huge technical component to speed skating. And I'm a studier, I'm a math brain. Some people they go out there, they feel it. I am iPad watching video like it is honestly my job. And you can get wrapped up in that, right? Wrapped up in like it has to be perfect. And you have this fear when you have a practice and it's not looking right or the cue's not cueing. Um, and it's hard not to rabbit hole. And I learned through each day, obviously through making a team, but even before that, I have to say, I wasn't lying when I said going to that line, I've already won, whether I made the team or not, because I proved to myself I can figure it out. As much as it seems like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, that I'm never going to learn to cross over again. I'm never going to be able to do this, this, and this. If I slow down and I believe that it will figure itself out, you still have to work, you still have to think, but you have what's like in here, you have it to figure it out. And each time I was at the base of this mountain and I was like, I got to figure this out. I did. And so through this evidence, you realize like I have the keys and my coach is fantastic. The people around me are fantastic and they absolutely helped and they were a part of the puzzle that got me there. But I had the pieces to figure it out. And that's something when you get injured and you consistently get injured, you kind of lose faith in that. And so hindsight, absolutely. Right. It all worked out. Everything was worth it. But even before that, I went to that line knowing I did everything possible. On the days I saw no light, I found a light by the end of practice, by the end of the day. I stayed an extra session to figure it out. I proved to myself that I was strong enough, I was smart enough, and I had the right people around me to be the best version of me. Was I the best in the world? No.
Hmm.
Do I think I can get there? Hopefully. That's why I'm skating another year. But I already won going into it. And crossing that line just reaffirmed that belief, but it was even before that, I have to admit. Like I was I was very, very proud of the person and the skater I've become over this last year. Extremely gracious and with so much gratitude for those around me. And it affirmed to me the community I have. It affirmed to me the belief in the people. I mean, how great people are that surround me. And then just in myself, that I was way stronger
Yeah,
than I thought I was. And that's a pretty cool feeling.
I love that. It absolutely is. I think it's so critical for people to recognize that when we turn on our television and we see whether it's a performer or an athlete or an entrepreneur, I mean, high achievers of all stripes, it's easy to think overnight success or, these are the best of the best.
Mhm.
And it's harder to recognize the story beneath that. So, in looking back over your story, I think it's important to point out that there's more than just Olympic team membership or championships that you've won along the way. What would you say is the accomplishment that you're most proud of?
I would say this last year, to be honest, and not making the team. I want to clarify like I've won world championships medals with Brittany Bowe and Aaron Jackson. I do have to say team sprint. It's amazing. That was one of the highlights of my career skating with them. But my process throughout this year and as we discussed, my ability to lean on those around me when before I would have retreated, my ability to work through the hard times and believe in myself when you look at the odds and they are all stacked against you, and the ability to take a broader view of things, not all the time, but I would say in those moments, in those reflective moments, my process this year and how I was able to lean on those around me, I think was what I am most proud of. And I have said it, it took a
Great.
village. People have heard me say, stay hungry and humble. And that is 100% what I thought this entire year. And it really hit home this year. For my grandfather knew. He knew something was coming. He knew I was going to be facing these trials and tribulations. Um, but that was it. I had to stay hungry. I had to keep wanting it, but remain humble and realize that I say there's this picture on of me on the line, and both hands are in the air. I would rarely say this, but I was glowing. I mean, I was on the Olympic line. Told myself, no matter what, I was going to enjoy the experience. I'm not usually a waiver. Like I'm usually on the line, and I'm locked in. And I was like, nope, Sarah, you have worked your entire life for this moment. Allow yourself to enjoy it. And so on that line, that was what that was. And so the world sees that picture. The world sees me on that line, my name get called, right? But when I look at that picture, I see 1,000. It's a puzzle, it's a jigsaw puzzle. And you've seen like 1,000-piece jigsaw. And especially throughout this last couple of weeks that I've got to go home and, give the flowers to the people, that's hard to mention everybody. Every moment, every person who has led me to that starting line, to that picture, is a piece of that puzzle. And I think this year I have
Beautiful.
been able to take an a bird's eye view of this journey and really realize that, and it's made me love the sport. It's made me love the process, and it's made me really realize who I have around me and what I'm capable of, and for that, I think I am most proud. This has been the best year of skating I've had,
Yeah.
and I've said that 3 months out of the trials. Obviously, now it is cherry on top, greatest thing ever, but even before that, like, I was super proud of the fight I had, but also extremely just thankful and have so much gratitude for the community that I had around me. And it makes me smile and almost makes me
Yeah.
cry every time I think about it. So this year really made me realize that.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love the metaphor of the puzzle. So you're not done skating yet, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I've taught graduate students for a lot of years, and when they get injured, I always say, "Oh, you're doing research." because they're learning about the injury and the recovery process. Well, you have some pretty big goals that you're still working on after skating. So talk to us a little bit about what's cooking for Sarah on the other side of the competitive career.
Yeah, so like I said, when I was young, I had the surgeries, and I couldn't do any sports. Actually, we went to a couple doctors and they recommended these surgeries that would actually put me out completely. They're like, she won't really be able to do competitive sports. And luckily, my parents were like, that doesn't work. Like, we're going to figure something else out. And so I went to Dr. Brian Cole, and it was a breath of fresh air. He was unbelievable in his ability to talk through his process, what he was going to do. And it was a quick fix, which was really nice. It was just placas. But in that quick fix, he saved my career. He made Sarah Warren Sarah Warren. And no, it's not heart surgery. It's not brain surgery. It's not these emergency surgeries where someone's on the table and you're immediately saving a life, right? But he did save my life that day. He allowed me to do what I love to do, and I was able to shadow him when I was in high school. He's a superhero to me. He is Superman, and he does that not just for me, but for hundreds of patients. And he truly makes a difference. And it was after actually my surgery that I said I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon, and that just got reaffirmed when I got to shadow him. Every day he was a superhero. There was no day off. And so for me, that was my path. I knew it. Like I said, when I'm young, I pick something and we're doing it. So, plan for me is to become an orthopedic surgeon. I am going to be studying for the MCAT this next year, finalizing everything I need for medical school. And then we're taking skating year by year. I am not naive. I understand when you do have 10 surgeries, you're really not sure of your timeline. Every day is a good day that you can skate. But things are they're delicate. And so at this point, really want to enjoy skating, be the best I can be, but also set myself up for hopefully future Dr. Warren. So MCAT's being studied, and then we'll be applying for medical school in the future. And then the goal is to be an orthopedic surgeon and hopefully change some lives like Dr. Cole changed mine.
Fantastic. Well, I will tell you without a doubt, U.S. Olympian reads pretty well on the Vita as you're submitting those applications for
I'm
medical school.
hoping,
So,
right?
uh,
It explains the break in. I was able to get my master's, which was really nice at Johns Hopkins, a fantastic program, and just I was a bioengineer in college, and so was able to cement that with a master's in it. I absolutely love it. But there has been a little break in school, and so luckily, Olympian kind of helps explain that break a little bit. But I'm definitely itching to get back to studying. Too many Netflix series at this point, right? You're trying to relax, but the binging of Netflix needs to stop. So the MCAT books are opening now.
yeah, well, you earned it. No problem. I mean, your gap year story is better than most. So I love that. I always ask this question of all my guests. If we were to watch a montage of your life, what song would you pick to play in the background and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. The Climb by Miley Cyrus. Or I guess
Yep.
I think it was Miley Cyrus. I don't know if it's Hannah Montana. One of the two.
Yep.
I would say The Climb. Because it's true. I always relate it to you're climbing up a mountain, and I don't think you'll ever reach the top. And if you have, you got to reach. There's a new summit you need. If you reach it, then what's there to work for? But you have these. It's been uphill, and I live a very blessed life. It's very hard for me to complain. Obviously, you have to come back from the injuries, and there's fear. But in the grand scheme, I live pretty blessed life. But you have these goals, and you hope you're running on a running track to get there. But for some reason, mine has a pretty steep grade at times, and so it was a climb. It was every day was a grind. Every day is a step uphill. But the cool thing about climbing a mountain is that you're still going up. It just takes you a little bit longer. So the Climb by Miley Cyrus probably would be the song of choice.
Love that. I drop all those into a mixtape of sorts, a Spotify playlist, and then it'll also be included in your episode. So
I love
that
that.
one's very fitting. I love it. Yeah. So one final question here. A lot of times, those who don't overcome adversity, they think about it and they think, why did this happen to me?
Mhm.
And the athletes, the high performers that I've worked with who have navigated that the most, they would oftentimes say, this happened for me. When you look back over the whole career, all the things you've been through, all the adversity, what would you say those things did in forming you. How did they work for you?
I think they completely did, and I like how you phrase that because it's very easy, and I say it's the victim mentality, and not in a negative way. It's very easy to go in that. Like, you're in pain, you're taking a path that no one else has to take. It just doesn't seem fair. But once you get through it, you realize it's those trials, it's those challenges that form who you are. If you live a life with no obstacles, how do you find out what you're made of? If something gets thrown at you, then how do you know you can handle it? I would much rather be 29, turning 30, knowing I have gone through all of these things. I have, because of it, I've realized the community around me. I've realized my strength. I have realized how much gratitude I have to be able to do the sport I love. You have all of these realizations because of the things thrown at you. And so it's almost a gift. And I said that before, and I think someone looked at me crazy, but 10 surgeries it was a gift. It was an absolute gift because every time I learned something about myself, and I would not have been on that starting line at the Olympics without it. I truly believe that. You might have gotten complacent, something else might have happened down the line. Everything happens for a reason at the time it happened. And that's how you have to think about things. It might not seem fair, but maybe you went over that road bump, so you missed a bigger road bump down the road. You can think about it. Why did it happen to me? Or thank goodness it happened to me because I got through
Yeah.
it. And because of that, I got to be where I am, whether you make it or not. Obviously, someone listening to this, well, yeah, she was at the Olympics. But honestly, if I didn't make it, I was able to get to the Olympic trials. I proved to myself that I could get that far. And at the end of the day, it's point 0.2 of a second. You can't control that. And so
Mhm.
I would, no matter what, whether you achieve the goals that you initially set out or not, you set those goals without knowing the journey to get there. It's really easy to look at destination, but no matter what, if you're working through that journey and you work through the trials and tribulations and you work through those challenges, you have proven to yourself you are that much stronger. And those challenges or make you you. So always be thankful for that.
Yeah. Love that mentality. Such a victor's mindset, not a victim mindset, like you said. Well, Sarah, a lot of people don't know that being on the Olympic team is not guaranteed financial success. It can be tough. So we want to support you in any and every way. So share the socials with us. How can we support
Absolutely.
you and continue to follow the work and the competition that you're doing?
I really appreciate it. Yeah, we don't do it for the money. That's for sure. We do it because we're competitors. We love to represent our country. And so we honestly are mostly sponsored by sponsors. Like, sponsorships are really how we fund ourselves. So if anyone does relate to the story, you want to, support the journey, I absolutely would love if you reached out to me. Social media is probably the easiest. I can drop my email too. That would be awesome. But honestly, eyes on the sport, my biggest thing with everything, obviously we love to be financially supported, but my big thing with the games was I was able to get this platform to show no matter how dim that light seems at the end of the tunnel, it's possible. And if that means one athlete believes in themselves again, when it seems like their back's against the wall and there is no shot, and they actually go and not even achieve it, but they try, it will be worth it. So if you want to support, I absolutely would love that. But more importantly, if you are an athlete who's going through something, please believe in yourself. If you don't, please reach out to me. Social media, I'll put my email on
Yeah.
here. I would love to be an advocate. I would love to be a resource for any athlete going through. Like I said, we have to stick together. It's not a fun group to be in, the surgery, especially multiple surgery group or surgeries at the wrong time group. So please reach out. I would absolutely love it. But if you want to follow me on socials, I'll be highlighting my journey throughout the whole next year. And I would love to connect.
Awesome. Well, I'll have a page just for this episode. I'll drop all the socials and links in there so that folks can navigate
Amazing.
to that when they get a chance. Sarah, I can't thank you can't thank you enough for being a part of the show today, for sharing your story. Last little bit, I always stitch this in. If you could just introduce yourself and say, "And I am undone."
I am Sarah Warren, and I am undone.